Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm Liane. I'm Liane. I'm Liane. Are you ready to ride the Are you ready to ride the Freakwency? To ride the Freakwency? Hi guys, welcome to Riding the Freakwency. Today I have the distinct pleasure of having my friend Michelle on. French and Finnish born, Michelle Karén became a professional astrologer at the age of 14. She holds a diploma from the Faculty of Astrological Studies in London and a master's degree in philosophy from the University of Geneva, Switzerland. Karén, through Lee Carroll, has said of her that she is a master astrologer who reads the Akash directly and the first one to bring quantum astrology to this planet. Selected to be the exclusive astrologer to the stars at the 78th Academy Awards in Hollywood, Michelle has clients in over 72 countries, has been interviewed on radio and television shows around the world, is a regular contributor to the Sedona Journal, has written 10 fiction and nonfiction books directly in 3 languages on yoga, living food nutrition, and astrology, among which the best-selling book, Astrology for Enlightenment, published by Simon & Schuster, and is the co-creator of a unique astrology-based oracle deck, Attuning with the Quantum. On her YouTube channel, Michelle Karén, astrologer-shaman, dedicated to the use of astrology to live a better life, she offers weekly predictions as well as develops other spiritual topics of practical interest. Initiated by the Kare master shamans in Peru over 20 years ago, she founded the online Yankee Munai Yakai School of Shamanic Studies and offers mystical journeys worldwide, Peru, Finland, Egypt, Bosnia, among other countries. Michelle is also a red belt in Taekwondo, a certified yoga teacher, the French voice of Honda's GPS systems in Canada, and a professionally trained model and actress. So it is my pleasure to introduce my sparring partner, and good friend, Michelle Karén. Michelle, ma belle, bienvenue à mon petit podcast, grand podcast.
I was not expecting that.
I warned you. I told you before I pushed, I'm going to sing at you.
Okay, I forgot how creative you are.
Welcome to Riding the Freakwency. This is Michelle Karén, everybody. Like, we've spent most of our time together laughing. So hopefully we'll get some words in and you won't just be listening to us laugh for 2 hours. But hey, that's okay too.
I think laughing is a good thing these days because we have too many things to deal with. So I think we should be like children, not 40 times a day, at least.
Exactly. Well, so as I said earlier in my presentation of the bio that I haven't read yet, but I'll do that and then edit it in. Michelle is an astrologer. She's a shaman. I've gone to a couple of despacho ceremonies, which were really, really amazing. Um, she's very tuned in and she's a very high vibrating being. So I'm very happy to have her here on the show and introduce her. So that's it.
Thank you, Liane. I'm so happy to be on your podcast. It's going to be fun. I feel it.
So let me just ask you this, I guess. Let's start with do you have a favorite modality or do you enjoy readings as much as you do doing dispatch? I mean, they all have different vibes to them, but is there one that you prefer or is closer to your heart?
Not really. I like variety because I think if I were doing the same all the time every day, that would be a little boring. And then because I work with people and every person is different and brings different issues and different vibration, a different consciousness, it's always unique. Every reading or every shamanic session or every ceremony is different, is unique. And that's what I love. I mean, what I really love is helping people and helping to raise the frequency. Because the thing is that when you help someone, you are really helping yourself also. Because the people who come to me are not coming to someone else. And because they resonate, either they heard about me or they read a book that I wrote or somebody told them about their experience with me. So every astrologer, shaman attracts different, I hate to say the word clientele because I don't see it like that, but different people. And in a week, I will realize that people are bringing me all the same issue. And it is the issue that I'm personally dealing with that week, or it resonates with something I need to understand. So we are always mirroring. And in shamanism, in my shaman school, I always tell my students, we are not one who knows and one who doesn't. We are in it together and we are going to solve the problem together. And that's a very different approach because if you think you are the savior, then you are making somebody else sick or you're making somebody else a problem. And the truth is, we are all the problem and we are all the solution. And we need to get out of that triangle of disempowerment where it's like there's a savior, a perpetrator, or a victim. And we should neither be a victim, definitely not a perpetrator, but also not a savior. Because, I don't want to call myself a healer because I don't heal anybody, but you show the path to a better life, to a more conscious understanding of what you are going through. And once we take that approach, it's a very different, it's an exciting journey because it's an adventure. We're in the same boat and we're doing it together. And that's the fun of it. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that because in mainstream society, we've been trained, and that triangle you spoke of, I think that's not organic. I think that was a concept that was repeated at a smaller group of consciousness units which accepted it, and then society was born. So this has come up in a few talks now, the morality plays back in the day, you know, and I'm sure there was some other form of social engineering before that, but it seems like there's always been the few that need to keep the masses, like we got to keep the animals quiet so that we can
Hmm.
function, and to be looked at as just one of the masses has always been a problem for me.
Hmm.
I'm realizing in this conversation, like I don't know, I've never liked being talked to or talked at.
Well, because you're a free spirit, Liane, and that's the beauty of you. And I think we are really at an age now where we need to be empowered. And we have been so kept under rules. So of course, we need rules to live in society. We can't just go and do whatever we want, however we want it. But it's also important that we realize we have power. You know, I'm seeing so many people, especially after the elections in the US, but that's true in every country. Everybody was like putting so much power in who was going to be president. And really, does it make that much of a difference? I'm not sure. I really am not, because in the end, it's what we do, and it's what we do in our world with our friends, in our community, how we treat other people in a restaurant, how we deal with a taxi driver, how we deal with a cleaning lady. You know, this is all what we exude and how we relate to our world, and that's how we make a real difference. And yes, of course, you know, if we are under dictatorship or in a very closed society, you know, with a lot of sorry, uh, with a lot of rules, of course it's going to make a difference. But the truth is, sorry, I need to drink some
No, it's
water.
okay. Here, but like here,
So,
you guys look at this. I mean,
mm?
this is what she's talking about.
Sorry, I can't see. Yeah,
Oh,
what
it's
is it?
okay. I'm old and have to squint too. Like, just wait till you see me reading your bio. I'm going to look like this the whole time. It says, but what can I do? I'm just one person, said 7
Well, we can
billion
do,
people. No, no, no. But
well,
the tag is, I'm just one
exactly.
person, says 7 billion people. If 7 billion people keep
Exactly.
saying, I'm just one person, what can I do? The absurdity is right in there. It's absurd.
Exactly.
Mais
But
c'est
that's the
complètement fou.
truth.
Ça ne va pas? Like,
And that's the truth, Liane, is that we need to remember that we have power. And if I change my life, if I live more consciously, if I develop more happiness in my life, that's going to have repercussions in all the people who come across me, even people who don't know me, you know, because just me driving on the road, on the freeway, and I'm happy and I'm doing great and I'm conscious and I'm aware of my surroundings, that's going to affect all the cars around me. You know, it's not going to be just my world that's going to get better, it's going to be everybody's world getting better. And this is what we need to understand. Everything is vibration, everything is frequency. And if we start to raise our frequency, if we start to focus on the good things and not the bad things, because it's so easy right now to focus on all the negatives and paint such a dark picture of the world we're in. But how does it help us? It doesn't. It
it
really
doesn't.
doesn't.
I feel like it's a habit of having a pendulum swinging back and forth. Like I recently listened to Mitch Horowitz read the Kabbalion, the Hermetic Principles, and he talks, you know, the pen, or maybe it was was it transurfing, reality transurfing, and they talk about the pendulum swinging back and forth and like really finding a place in the middle. But you know, so many great minds and great um, new thought leaders have said the same thing in a different way. And the vocabulary you're using, like the mainstream still doesn't like raise your frequency. Like, so the vocabulary that you went into focus on things that make you happy. But then you have the people that say, how can you focus on things that are making you happy when all of this is going on? Well, that becomes a choice. It becomes a
Exactly.
choice, you know, and people don't understand,
Exactly.
they don't understand that concept either for some reason. Like, and
Exactly. You know, I read the tarot and I did an experiment. Instead of having the cards looking down and you don't know which card you pick, I had them looking up. So you could exactly know what card you were picking. And one after another in that group, everybody chose the negative cards where you see a guy lying on the ground with the swords in his back or the guy bleeding to death. And it's like, what is
I'm
wrong? And there
sorry.
was the beautiful cards, you know, of love and happiness and joy and family. No, they went to the bad ones. Why? Why? Please tell me why.
If we weren't, okay, but see, do you think human beings, do you think we're a psychic species? That's like a yes or no. Are we psychic or not?
Yes, of course
Of
we
course
are.
we
And
are.
that's
Thank you.
why. And we
Well,
have
because this is it.
intuition.
That's what's at work. We're all being psychic and we're all being the monkey rubbing the mud, but some of us are putting mud back on and the louder frequency and then it attracts itself and then you have these people. So I guess that was just the vibe du jour that day of people that were just going to find the crazy to show you like how, but this is all proof that we're psychic and I don't know how people aren't correlating the two yet.
You know, we are psychic, but we are also masters, and we need to remember that we have the ability to transform the vibe. You can focus on the glass half empty, or you can focus on the glass half full. It's the same glass, really, but one is going to make you look forward to the fact that there's still water in your glass, and the other is going to be like, oh, I'm in lack and I don't have enough, and we are in that consciousness of focusing on the things we don't have. And the more we focus on the things we don't have, the less we're going to have. And the more we focus on, even if we don't have much, but we focus on being grateful and happy with the little we have, it's going to grow and it's going to grow and it's going to grow. And our life is going to expand and it's going to be more and more. And that's what's the difference between children and old people, is that at one point, you know, people become bitter and they had bad experiences and things didn't go as they wanted, and their life becomes smaller and smaller and smaller until they die. And children are always expanding. They always want more. They're always excited about something else, about curious about things. And their life is always growing. And that's how we should be for the rest of our lives. We should be in that consciousness of what else is there? What else can I learn? What else can I do? How else can I expand? What else can I develop in myself? What talent have I not tapped into that maybe I could develop?
I agree, you know, and there are so many grown-ups who are just still such a drag and when people walk into a room who still have that childlike quality, they look at you like,
I know. You know, I have a thing with
right? Like what
swing.
the flip Wilson is wrong with you guys? Like what? Lighten up, man. What is
You know, I have a
ew?
thing with swings. I love swings. That's a thing from my childhood, okay? And I've way outgrown swings, but
No, you
whenever I see
haven't, and
a
neither
swing
have I.
somewhere,
Like I'm still waiting to go over.
whenever I see a swing somewhere, I will just go and have fun. And literally, people look at me like, "Aren't you a little old for that?" No, I'm not,
No,
because I
and
love
neither are
and
you, but you just don't
and
remember.
it makes me
It's like they
happy.
forgot. They forgot. They
And
forgot to
that's
be
so
happy
sad.
no matter what.
And that's so sad because in the end, the biggest thing that people want, it's not even money, it's not even fame, it's happiness. And that's the ultimate goal in life, is happiness. And happiness, it's a choice. You can wake up in the morning and be grumpy and focus on all the things that are not going well, or you can say, well, I'm going to create the best day today. And today is the beginning of the rest of my life. And whatever happened before, okay, screw that. Now I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to have more wisdom. I'm going to deal with it differently. And I'm going to create a wonderful future for myself. And you
And should
can. And
something go sideways today, then I can try again tomorrow because I'm not going to drag today into tomorrow. It's not good. Like this is all
you know, there was
so
this
linear.
There was this poster of a grumpy cat, and he said, "Well, when life gives you lemon, throw it back and ask for chocolate." I
Exactly.
thought that was so good.
It is.
Because we get out of life what we decide to get out of life, and everybody has equal chances. I don't care where you were born, what education you had, what kind of parents you had. So yes, some people are born with very serious handicaps and very serious obstacles, but sometimes those obstacles are what are going to make you greater, what are going to make you the most amazing people in life. If you look at their biography and their past, they did not have an easy life. They did not have wonderful parents. They did not have tons of money. They just did the best they could with what they had, and they created something amazing. And that's all to their honor. That's something to be commended. And it's beautiful. And everybody can do that. Everybody.
Well, I definitely have been practicing doing what I can where I am with what I have.
You
Um,
are example of childlikeness. I love that. You have this ability to create, and you are, I mean, as long as I've known you, and it's been a long time now, but you are always creating, you're always coming up with something else, and you're always vibrant and full of life. I love that
but
about
it's
you,
funny when
Liane.
I was trying to apply, thank you. I'm not going to run away from the compliment. I always run away from compliments. Thank you, Michelle. And actually, it's incredibly flattering coming from somebody who is as childlike. I'm just thinking back to we used to take taekwondo together, and when we had to spar each other, it was always just so like, I can't believe I have to kick you. I really don't want to punch you right now, but they're making me do this because we're sparring. So
And
sorry.
you were so good at it, and I was black and blue for 2 years until I got fed up of being beaten up, and I started reacting, and now everybody was scared to spar with me.
Right. You
And
definitely, you were this timid thing, and then one day you just had enough, and then nobody wanted to spar Michelle. And it's funny because, like, for the longest time, and I know you guys can't imagine this, because who I am, and now, like, I'm 40 years old now. This is like 20 years ago, right?
hmm
10 years.
Yeah.
How long ago is this? This is
Oh, at least 30 years. Yeah, at least.
20,
Even more,
10, 15,
25.
whatever. I was younger. And I can't say that I had more energy because that just, who needs coffee anyway? But like, so, oh my God. They would pair me up with teenage boys because all of the middle-aged women were terrified. But like, I'm a middle-aged woman. Were you there the one time where I turned around and I went to do a back kick on Alex Blanco and then thought, oh my God, what if I kick him in the nads? So I pulled my kick and then that's exactly what I did. I kicked him in the nads. It was really bad. So never pull your kick because if you pull your kick, right, it would talk about self-fulfilling prophecy. That was terrible. At least he was wearing his cup. Thank God.
And it was interesting, Taekwondo, because I remember the first time we had to break a plank with our fist. It's like, no way, that's impossible, and I was scared to death. And somehow it was like butter. It was unbelievable. And I was like, I still have a pile of all my planks that I broke with my fist or my, kick. And it's incredible that it actually works. It's
I still
possible.
have dough box and belts and
Yeah.
planks back in LA in storage, I'm sure someplace. I really need to go back and retrieve my stuff, although I'm not sure, you know, if I have a fear factor anywhere, it's of making a move. So I'm just staying still and putting my head down. Because unless something makes me move, the better idea, the safest thing to do is to just keep my head down and keep working.
You are
That's
a
how I feel.
real cancer, Liane. Real cancer. You
Is that what
like
cancer?
things, your nest, your home,
It
your
is. I
little
have a
home.
2,100 square foot nest, and the idea of getting a roommate is horrifying. It's like, wait, what? No, what?
Well, and especially now, I think, it's kind of it's difficult to get along with certain people, and people are really reacting in very strange ways. And I
Yeah.
think we need to be in our space, and we need to have some, privacy. I think it's very important. If we can, it's very important.
Insulation from the out there. And I think also when you're empathic, dare I say, you know, bent toward the subtle energies more than the physical reality, when you go out into the physical reality, the loudness of the chaotic subtle energies become not very subtle, and it's like walking into an emotional static of sorts, which is
Mm.
not to my preference. So I really have to be in the mood to go out. I've can't say worked very hard because it's not hard work to make your space. It's become easy to just allow myself to be, as opposed to when you first met me, when I was trying to be something that I thought everybody wanted, to get the job, to get the thing, to get the girls' attention with the music, to, you know, all this stuff that I was, and it made me crazy, crazy,
Mhm.
you know.
And we need, and I think that's the beauty of getting older. I love getting older.
Me too.
I would not go back to my 20s because once you're older, first of all, you don't care so much what other people think about you, and you know who you are, you know what you want, and you have the power to stand your ground and be authentic. And I think it's very important to be authentic. And we can't please other people. There's always going to be people who love you. There's always going to be people who are jealous of you. There's always going to be people who hate you.
But that's
And they
their
don't even know
problem.
you. Exactly. And in the end, it's am I perfect? No, of course not. But am I doing the best I can? I'm doing my best. I try every moment. Could I do better? Sure, of course. And I hope that every day I'm getting a little better. But it's about really being ourselves as much as possible. And it's also important to retreat because, as you said, there's so many conflicting energies around us, and there are vibrations, and there's noise. Have you noticed there's noise everywhere? Now, even in YouTube videos, now they put this music in the background, which drives me nuts. And I'm boycotting those channels, and some are really good, and I'd love to hear what they have to say, but that music in the background is just unnerving. And
Yeah, but you
it's
know what?
rare.
Get
We don't.
this. It's probably tuned to 440. I'm just going to go straight to, okay, yeah, back to the, why they had to make music more invigorating and livelier. It's not lively. They're putting it at a frequency that agitates water, and if it agitates water, it's agitating every consciousness unit. And because our rappers are made
Absolutely.
mostly of water, so when you've got music behind coherent information, it clashes. I'm sorry.
Exactly. And it's the same with colors. I mean, if you go to McDonald's or those places, which I don't, but if you do, they have certain colors for certain, reactions. And also in architecture, if you look at now, the ceilings are becoming lower and lower and no lower, and people feel are trapped in boxes, literally. And that's all designed to mess with our consciousness. And then the food that's being messed with and all the stuff. So we have to become very aware of all that. The first time I heard silence was in the north of Canada, and it was like so cold, and it was like everything was frozen. You couldn't even see the difference between the sky and the earth because everything was white. And I heard silence for the first time in my life. And the peace that comes from hearing silence, because there is a sound to silence, but it's a real sound. It's a deep, deep sound that brings you like, and that's why people are not regenerating now, because we have so much noise all the time, traffic, music, TV, this, that, and we can't regenerate. So even if we sleep, we wake up like we've been hit by a truck because we didn't get a chance to go deeply inside ourselves. And that's a tragedy of our time. We need this solitude. We need this silence. We need to be in this inner space and to regroup and regenerate in order to go back in the world and do what we have to do and learn what we have to learn. But life is making it very, very difficult, extremely difficult.
Albert Einstein wrote a bunch of essays, and I've brought this up, and I don't think the book is to hand, so I won't waste time to go get it. But paraphrasing, he said, any society in which human beings are put in a situation where there's no time for self-reflection becomes a very sick society, which is another way of saying what you just said. And he wrote all that back in the 40s and 50s. And hi, it's almost 100 years later. And then we've got the jacked up music, we've got crazy news, we've got social engineering, and we've got gullible species. It's not good.
And also the vibrations, because we don't, even now in the countryside in France in a tiny village, but there is even
There's
the
Wi-Fi
you know,
there now. So the Wi-Fi
yeah.
interrupts probably.
Well,
5G.
finally, well, I was happy to get Wi-Fi because it was sitting on the sidewalk for 3 years and it was not being plugged in. So finally, I have high-speed internet, but it also creates a vibration and a frequency that's not the best, obviously. And that's disrupting and that's very transparent. So we can't actually pinpoint it, we can't see it, but it is affecting us. And then there's the stuff that they are putting in the air, chemtrails and all
Particulate
that.
trails. I've stopped calling them chemtrails. I just full out call them particulate trails. They're
And
definitely
then,
dumping stuff in the atmosphere, and in those things there are
oh,
nanoparticles, and God only knows what they've got in the nanoparticles. I mean, you heard our fearless leader say the head of a pin, like it's tremendous what the head of a pin can, like, yeah, it's right. It's tremendous what the head of a pin, like in DNA hard drives hold petabytes worth of information. I mean, this has got to tell you the fact that they're tapping the human being DNA for hard drives and memory. It's got to tell you that somebody knows something and they're using it to their self-interest, not in the self-interest of the human being, not the species self-interest. And it's not conspiracy, folks. Somebody figured out frequency a really long time ago, and we're just like the dumb little bunnies who go buy the next hit song because we like it. Like it's like we're just walking around so ignorant and so naive and so gullible. And then our tax dollars are paying for this sickness that we get on a daily basis. The commercials telling us
oh.
that we're not good
Well,
enough.
we do live in a sick environment, but it's important to, we can't erase all of it because otherwise we're going to retreat in the Himalayas somewhere,
Right,
and
that's
that's
not,
all
but this is the
we
pendulum swinging again, like somewhere in the middle. Like, and just because this is something else I wanted to address earlier, it's like focusing on the good. A lot of people will say focusing on the good, then you're in la la land, you're delusional about what's not good. But that's also a false
Yeah, and
interpretation. You
that's
can
interesting though.
you
I'm
can
glad you
have
bring that.
Right, you can be aware of something really fucked up going on in the apartment next door, but keep your vibration clean and not focus on how fucked up that is. It's where you choose to focus. It doesn't mean that you're not acknowledging that there's something fucked up. It just means that you're choosing to focus on something that makes you feel joyful and blissful, because in a blissful state, you'll probably be of more assistance to whatever's going on next door should somebody come ask for help, right? Like, because if you're
Mhm.
in the same state of fear, you're just going to meet it with the same vibe. Like, it needs to be elevated. And elevated is also maybe not a good word because it makes elevated what better than? No, not better than. Oscillating at a higher vibration, oscillating at a higher speed means your vibration is elevated, and emotions and oscillations are directly correlated, and there's probably a mathematical equation. So are like chakra energies and theta, gamma, alpha, beta, all that stuff. It's all correlated. It's all correlated. Everything's a wave until you focus on it, then it collapses into your right there. That's got to be
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you're bringing that up, Liane, because I think it's very important to be as centered as possible, as calm as possible, take things in strides, and not ignore the negative because there's a lot of negative. And I don't think we should live in la la land and think that the whole world is amazing and incredible. Like recently sent a mailing to my list, about what's happening in March and all the eclipses and retrogrades and Neptune changing signs. And this man wrote to me and he said, why is your newsletter so negative? And I was surprised because I read it again and I thought, okay, I didn't think I was writing anything negative, but I did mention in my newsletter that there were going to be some problems and some people who are weak-minded will probably be not doing very well. And so I wrote back and I said, well, unless you identify with the weak-minded, which why would you do that? One. And second, why would you focus on the negative? I mean, that was a small section of the whole write-up that I made. So again, it's about the balance. And darkness defines light. Let's not forget that, because if there were only light, we would not even know that there's light. But it's because there's darkness that we can realize that there is light. So we need to also look at the darkness, but not focus on it. Acknowledge it, exactly as you said, but also put our attention and our concentration on the positive, because then we balance it out and then we move forward in a more positive manner. It's an equation, exactly like you said. I love that.
Well, and then the other thing that I was feeling and seeing in my mind as you were talking, like at what point does duality become a whole thing? And at what point do we interpret the duality as a whole thing that functions with itself? Because we all have male, female in us, and we're a whole being. Like the duality is part of it, but if focusing on the duality aspect of our ness, beingness, as that's also a choice to focus on the wholeness of it and how one balances the other one out and to try to like stay on the tightrope. It's kind of a fun little game if you're not in a place where you're getting triggered. And that guy who got triggered by that little bit of what you call practical astrology readings to get a better grasp of what you can do to keep your world clean. Like I like how you describe how you a practical guide, right? How do you say that?
Yeah, like it's to me, astrology is a means to live a more conscious life. And we can only lead a more conscious life if we acknowledge the things that are going to be difficult. And astrology, the beauty of it is that it prepares us, saying, okay, watch out here, watch out there, but it's just telling you, be cautious, beware, don't give it so much power that now it becomes the whole picture, because it's not the whole picture. It is only a tiny part of the picture.
Well,
And
so
the
I
more,
think he definitely resonated and maybe was triggered because whatever you said in there triggered, like it made him question whether he's a weak-minded person, and then he got insulted and then he came back at you. I don't think it had anything to do with the information. I think it had to do with whatever went on in his head as a response and the full circle back at you. Why are you so negative? It's like, why are you so negative? Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen it.
and that's the thing, is that it's very easy to point the finger. It's very easy to project our baggage and the things we haven't resolved onto other people. And, I didn't take it personally, but I did look at it and I said, okay, maybe he's right. I'm not saying he's not right. So I read again what I heard written, and I thought, no, I don't feel that I was negative. There were, warnings, yes, absolutely. But there were also all the positives, that this is a new beginning, that we have a chance to start over, that this is a turning point month. And when, the slate is clean, we can create whatever we want from there. I think that's very positive.
I feel
And
like
maybe
that's a
stay well.
reminder of how empowered we are. That's what I'm hearing. You're reminding me how empowered I am and how I can control how I'm perceiving everything. And honestly, like a few weeks back, was it the beginning of February where you were saying like, just be careful because people might see you as arrogant. And I'm like, wow, I've got some pretty aggressive ideas about what I'm seeing, and maybe I really need to be careful how I'm talking to people and the words of the vocabulary. But I definitely took that to heart because I know I'm a very I'm an aggressive woman.
You're not. You're very direct.
I've got aggressive idea.
Oh, yeah, I know you. You're not aggressive. You're very direct and you speak your mind and you don't sugarcoat things. And I love that about you. And I
Yeah.
think
Well,
people should be like that. And if people take it personally and are offended by that, well, maybe they need to also look at themselves. I mean, not to say we should be, pounding truths on people's heads and be very aggressive and controlling, but why do we react like that? But it's always interesting. I love when people tell me something like this guy, because it makes me also question myself. It makes me look at how am I expressing
Right.
myself?
It
Could I
makes you
express
check the
myself
check and it makes you see, like, it's a fine line. Like,
good?
understanding how you're being perceived is one thing. Living your life
Mm-hmm.
based on how you're being perceived is a completely different thing. It's a
Thank you.
fine, subtle difference. And people, it's these little subtle things. Like, I've brought this up before in Taekwondo, right? What's the difference between a front stance and a back stance, which are completely different things? Is it a giant percent or is it 2%? 49,
Mm-hmm.
51. It's
Mm-hmm.
2%. Like, so if
Mm-hmm.
you apply front stance to back stance to the percentage of shift from how you believe something based on what you've been told by people, society, whatever, if you just shift it 2% over a little tiny bit, that gives you the freedom to see something completely differently. Uh-oh, she's laughing again. Here we go. Is it because I have my hands in my head?
No, I love that, but you're right. You're absolutely right. You're a comedian, Liane. You really are. But I love
Yes.
that. But we should, and it's just a matter. I mean, I think that's the beauty of living in society because it's very easy to be perfect in our room alone, but it's once we're confronted with all sorts of people that we measure how, together we are or not together we are. And that's how we learn, and that's how we evolve, and that's how we grow. And you're right, the yin and the yang. I love that drawing, that in the yang there's some yin, and the yin there's some yang. And especially now, with all these crazy genders, I think it's also very important to remember that in a woman, who is predominantly woman, there is man, and in a man who is predominantly man and masculine, there's also a feminine part. But now it's finding the balance of how much that is, and how can we be really a woman and still be strong, but without being aggressive and overwhelming and controlling, and how can we be a man and be sensitive and yet not being effeminate. And it's really an interesting thing right now of finding this true balance. And I think a lot of and I think that's what gave way to all these different genders is that people are very confused. What is it to be a woman? What is it to be a man? And what is the balance? And how do we manage that balance?
As
And
you're
it's true
talking,
for
I see a pendulum swinging, like with the first thing, and then describing what's going on right now. It's more like a dowsing pendulum that's going all kinds of circles. And then we went from pendulum, like four
good.
options: effeminate man, masculine woman, feminine woman. Like, it was a pendulum. And now
Right.
we've got this thing and it's just going, doing, like, eventually it'll settle down. I mean, I wonder, they say, and I'm not going to argue this, that there are hermaphrodite races out in the world. Like, what if human species ends up ultimately in another 100,000 years being a hermaphroditic race?
Well, that we'll deal with that
Like,
when
who
we
knows?
get
We'll deal
there.
with that when it comes, but it makes my imagination fly. Like, what is this all about? Like, so it goes like crazy and then it comes back. I mean, everything's like breathing too, right? It's expanding into all kinds of options. And when it contracts back, everything expands and contracts, including fads. Like, so I feel like
and
something will
it's and
settle.
it's actions and it's fashions, and every generation is bringing a different consciousness. You know what, I'm fascinated by those little kids who sit at the piano and they play like virtuosos, and you give them two notes and they play the whole song, and they have never practiced or never learned that song. They just have music pouring out of them. I'm in awe because I've studied the piano for, I don't know, 15 years. I'm incapable of doing something like that. Incapable. So I know, Liane, you are a musician, so you have this ability, but
Oh,
I mean, those kids that are being born now, I mean, unbelievable, unbelievable.
dude,
I'm incredible,
it's true. I
incredible.
actually know a guy named Mike Rogers who he's got an interesting story, but ultimately he landed back in Japan after just hating being here. Um, and his youngest child, whose name is Ray, Wray, is like that. 3 years old, 4 years old. He's like winning shit, like
Incredible.
just, and you're just kind of like, wait,
No,
what?
like this little kid from Switzerland. He's 13 years old. He started playing the piano when he was four.
Mm.
Luca Schisch, he was born in Switzerland. He speaks three languages at 13, and he's already playing at the Carnegie Hall, and he has like all these concerts, and he's just, and you can tell he just loves the piano, and he loves Rachmaninoff, but he can't even get he's not even his hands are not even big enough to be able to play correctly. And I'm like, oh my God, unbelievable. And that kid is just I'm in awe. I'm just in awe of those children. And all of them are from that generation of Neptune in Aquarius and Neptune in Pisces.
Okay, so when
That was,
does that fall out? What years is that?
oh gosh, you're asking me a
Uh-oh, so
question.
now I'm making her work.
Well, Pisces, okay, Pisces was between 2012 until now. It just shifts at the end of this month, 2025. So it's a cycle of 12 years. So count before that. So it would have been those kids born between 2000 and 2012 had Neptune in Aquarius, and those born from 2012 to now have their Pisces, Neptune in Pisces. And now the new generation being born now, I mean, there's going to be a first round between the 31st of March and, if I remember right, September of this year are going to have Neptune in Aries. And then it's really going to be there on the 26th of January 2026 for 12 years until 2038. And that is going to be interesting because Neptune in Aries, Neptune is about mysticism, music, harmony of the spheres, psychic phenomenon, all of that. And it was very comfortable in Pisces, its own sign. But now that it's shifting to Aries, we're going to see some very daring artistic revolutions. You know, I'm actually excited to see what those kids are going to do because they're going to revolutionize fashion, they're going to revolutionize music and painting. And also, probably to a lesser extent, literature, but maybe to a lesser extent, more animated films or movies. So we could start to see a new generation of movies, animated films, but definitely in music, there's going to be some, in fashion, there's going to be some incredible revolutions.
Well, that's really cool because I figure 30 years from now, if I'm lucky enough to make it that long, I'll be in need of some good entertainment when I'm not able to pump it out anymore.
And that's so beautiful to see those new generations coming in and they're bringing a whole new understanding. You know, it's like waves of souls are being incarnated under very specific cycles, planetary cycles, and they're bringing an evolution. Each of them is bringing a different evolution. I'd actually started doing that on my YouTube channel, you know, the generations, and then I didn't have time to continue, but it's still one of my projects to continue that.
Sounds like it's
But
almost a book. I almost
it,
feel like
it
that's a
is.
book.
It, and the difficulty of doing that because you know there's three transpersonal planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and they have different cycles. So within, for example, the generation of Pluto in Virgo, there's those who had Neptune in Scorpio, those who had Neptune still in Libra, you know. So there's also the sub cycles within the big
That's
cycle.
what I'm getting in my head as you're talking.
Exactly, exactly. So it's actually very very complicated to explain because you have to really, there's like the general picture, and then there's like the different colors, the different shades within that major color. And but it's fascinating to see. It's exciting as an astrologer. I find that exciting to see. I'm always looking at people's charts, and looking at where are their slow-moving planets and what are they bringing and what kind of generation they're in and what are they, how are they helping humanity's consciousness to evolve to another level. It's fun. It's really fun.
It is fun. It's a lot of fun. Well, I mean, and I know you don't lean towards dealing with, what I guess the ETs and aliens and stuff like that, but how much do you think, I mean, do you have any opinion on whether there are like human beings or some kind of a hybridized species that have a lot?
Absolutely.
Come on,
I
right?
mean,
Like, how are we not?
it's not something I talk about,
I know. And if
right?
you're uncomfortable, we don't have to.
No, no, not at all. I mean, but we have to be very careful when it comes to ETs because there's different kinds of ETs, a lot of different kinds. And there are some very helpful ones, some very positive ones. There's also some very dangerous ones. So you can't put them all in the same bag. And you have to be very discerning. And I'm always very cautious when I hear people talking about ETs or contact with ETs because I want to know which ones are you in contact with. And most people have no idea. And they just put them, oh, it's an ET, and then it's necessarily good and they're necessarily more evolved. Well, they could be evolved in a way that's predator, and that is not having the highest good of humanity at heart at all. And where they are using humanity in ways that are extremely dangerous and evil. And I'm not going to go into details of that, but you have to be very, very cautious. Whom you're dealing with, who are they, what do they do, how long have they been there, because, and there's also a lot of hybrids right now who are partly human and partly extraterrestrial.
Je
And
pense
we
que
have
je
to be,
suis quelque chose comme ça, tu sais, je pense que je suis.
and c'est tout à fait possible. It's very possible because we are, and we have to be also very careful with sex. In my school, when I talk about shamanism, I really tell people be very careful because whom you have sex with and one night stands are extremely dangerous. You don't know who this person is. And you don't know what kind of essence they are bringing with them. And you don't know how, especially as women, we are going to be the recipient of that
Right.
energy
Because we're the
more
ones
than.
getting penetrated. Like penetrative sex is not anything that's attractive to me at this point in my life.
Well,
A lot of people say like, why don't you go and why don't you, I mean, go find a dude. I'm like, that's programming. Like, it's not like I'm saying I don't need a dude because I'm my own dude. Like, I'm not that. I'm just saying,
well, look, if you meet the love of your life and if you are with a person who really matches you in mind, heart, body, and spirit, this is the ultimate.
that's
This
the
is the most
ultimate.
beautiful, powerful experience. But to have sex for the sake of it and to flaunt, like I see those girls, I mean, at the Oscars, I mean, come on, it's who is going to be more naked than the other. I mean, what is it? Only fans? I mean, what kind of reality are we in? That that you flaunt your body to just anybody. That's insane. That's insane. And we need to go back to the sacredness of sexuality. Liane, come on. We need to go back to the sacredness and to understanding the energetic consequences that it's not a handshake. I'm sorry. Sports sex, that's like the most ridiculous and dangerous concept you can imagine. That this is a sharing of your essence. This is a sharing of who you are. This is something sacred. This is something extremely important. And you can get entities with sex. You can get karma with sex. You can get, and
Attachments,
I'm not even talking about illnesses here. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about,
energy
you know,
attachments, energy vampires, like people attachments, like
exact,
thought forms, attachments that have been created by somebody and their weird energy. I know why when I walked here, like I wasn't having sex with my mother, but the thought forms that she was making in
thank you.
there, and they, thanks for that. Thanks. TM.
Oh, no, that was a horrible thought. No, I
Yeah.
understand.
But no,
And
but like the thought forms she was making, even without an exchange, but were
mhm,
affecting me. Like
mhm.
literally, now that she's dead, God bless you, Mama. The energy in the house is completely different. She had attachments, man. And because of that, she was an energy vampire. And because of that, I felt like she was sucking my loosh because somebody sucked her loosh. And like, I don't even know how else to explain it. I don't go into this an awful lot, but like, I think a lot of the relationship I had with my mom and my not controlling my anger with her was something that she brought, and because we're both empathic and entangled, I got sucked into, because that's not my authentic self, is not to be scary, angry, psycho. Like I'm not like that's not, you know,
I agree. And we need to be careful also the friends we choose. Some friends will suck the life out of you,
I'm
literally.
happy with
You'll
my
be
orbs and my
exhausted.
birds, man.
You'll be really exhausted after talking to some people and uplifted while talking to other people. Pay attention to that. This is very, very important. And energy vampires are very real. This is not a figment of our imagination. This is very, very real. And we need to be aware as much as possible. So we can't live in a bubble, obviously, but we can choose the movies we watch, the books we read, the people we hang out with, the people we have sex with. Thank you very much. And that's going to, create and build ourselves for the better and not start to go downhill into a reality where everything becomes very dark and dull and puts us away from our truth. So yeah, I mean, hybrids do exist, absolutely. There's a lot of them out there. But there are some good hybrids and some bad hybrids, and we need to be also aware of that. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now on many different levels. And it's
Yeah.
about discernment. It's really about discernment and really about becoming conscious as much as we can, not scared because fear, people think hatred is the opposite of love. No, that's not true. Fear is the opposite of love. And if we have true love, we don't have fear. But if we have fear, we can't love. It doesn't go together. And unfortunately, a lot of people live in fear right now. Fear of this, fear of that, fear of scarcity, fear of the government, fear of, and that's not a way to live. That's a very negative way of living. And if we start to live in love and we start to focus on the things we love and to focus on the positive, to focus on those, we are going to make more of that. I love this saying from American Indians, build the trenches, the rain will come. Focus on the outcome you want. And, and once you focus on that outcome you want, you're going to bring it into your life.
I agree. I agree. And it's not like, the book The Secret makes it sound so like an enigma, like the manifesting, but we do it every day without even realizing that we're doing it.
True. Absolutely.
It's a law. It happens. It's happening. Like what you're thinking and feeling and what that causes you to do, then like imagine an empty space with no floor, and every time you take a step, a tile shows up. Well, that tile has been created, like mm, the aspects of that tile, whether the experience is the tile. So the experience is conditioned and colored by what you're thinking and feeling, and then the action that you take to cause the next thing to happen. So you got to be careful what intention you're putting in there. I feel like the Holy Trinity in the Bible is like intention, thoughts, and emotions, like is another way of interpreting that, if you don't want to take it literally.
And I'm glad you're talking about emotions because it's the emotion, the first thing. The emotion gives the feeling gives the word gives the action. And a lot of people, go into these, repeating words. Well, if you don't have the emotion that goes with it, you are just, it's like an empty record. The truth is you have to have the emotion. You have to have the emotion of abundance to create abundance in your life. You have to have the emotion of being in a relationship to attract the right relationship. You have to be in the emotion of success to bring success to you. And people focus usually on the lack of, they focus on, oh, I don't have enough money, oh, I don't have a partner, or, and then they create more of the lack instead of being already at the destination. And if you can already have the feeling that being at the destination is going to give you, then the destination is going to manifest into your life.
It's like
And that's a
closing a gap, you know? Um,
clean.
right. And the trick is though, too, it's like you can I wish I had more money. That's putting separation between you and money.
Yeah,
Saying
because
I wish I
already
had.
because you're focusing on I don't have money. And I don't have money is never going to create money. It's going to create more of I don't have money. But if you start to focus on, okay, well, what is it that I have in my life? What is this dress that I haven't worn, that I bought for some occasion that never happened? How about I start wearing it every day? I inherited, my parents had this thing about China. So they had all these beautiful plates that were reserved from some VIP guests that came once every 10 years. And then when they died, I had all this china, and I thought, okay, what do I do with this? And I thought, well, how about I'm the VIP here, and how about I start to eat every day in that china? And that's what I'm doing now. Now it's my everyday dishes. And just to see that beautiful china and to eat in that beautiful china, it makes me feel royal. It makes me feel abundant. It makes me feel wealthy. And
Wow,
and
you just made me
that's
think about maman, elle a du Limoges. J'ai plein de
Mhm.
Limoges dans notre chambre. So maybe I should bust out my mom's Limoges, and
Yes,
even if I'm
please.
drinking kombucha, start drinking out of the fine crystal and just start using all of the fine things that my mom had. Maybe
Please
that'll
do.
help. That'll
Please
help.
do, because you are the VIP here. Why reserve it for this special occasion that never comes? I mean, I remember I had bought dresses, beautiful dresses, for some date that never happened, okay? And how about you start being your own date and you
Right.
start wearing that dress in your everyday life, and it will just make you feel beautiful, attractive, sexy, elegant, whatever it gives you as a feeling. And that was in acting class. That was a fun thing. Like my teacher, she was very smart, and she said, the guys they had to go in a in a car dealership, and they had to test drive a Porsche or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, whatever it was, and pretend they had the money. So they had to go and and pretend I have the money to buy that. And the girls, we had to go to Saks Fifth Avenue and get the most expensive gown and try it on and walk with it and feel, even if we obviously did not have the money for it, but just to wear it or just to drive that car, it gives you a feeling of abundance. And that feeling is what is going to start manifesting abundance in your life. That's how it works. It's very simple. It's not a big secret. It's very, very simple.
It's funny though, too, because I know somebody who went and got a very expensive car thinking that it was going to make them feel better, but didn't think ahead. And now they are not doing so good because they did it for they used the car purchase as a band-aid instead of attracting it. They forced it. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Absolutely.
And so now it
And
fell apart because there's no foundation.
Well, because the feeling did not accompany. So they were looking for an external sign of wealth without having the internal feeling of wealth. And you have to create the internal feeling of wealth in order to embody the external attraction and to bring it into your life.
Well, it comes to
So
loving
that's
yourself. Like if you know how to love yourself, and again, in society, we're told how we shouldn't love ourselves and how to buy Colgate and this hairspray and that lipstick and this brand of cover up so that you don't look old. Like nobody's aging gracefully. Everybody's crazy.
well,
They don't
that's in
know
the
how to love
US.
themselves.
I think in Europe, people have less of an obsession with youth than in the US. You know, the big difference I see because, you know, fashion, beauty are a big thing in France, but the way we see it in France is that at every age there's a sexiness, at every age there's a beauty. And we're not trying to look at 60 the way we were at 20 because we are different. So it doesn't mean that we should have like gray hair and you know wrinkles all over and all that, but there's natural ways of doing it. And I think in the US there's more you know wanting to force nature, wanting to bend nature to our will to look a certain way or and in the end everybody ends up looking the same, you know, like Barbie dolls. And that's also very sad. I think everybody has their own unique features, their own unique beauty, their own unique thing, and it's about loving ourselves and feeling we deserve that, because that friend of yours who was, you know, who bought that expensive car, maybe he didn't think he deserved it. And that's the first thing we need to work on. Do I deserve to eat out of Limoges beautiful porcelain? Or do I deserve to have this car? And if we don't feel we do, then that's the little work we need to do on ourselves to get to that point where yes, I deserve to wear that beautiful dress, to buy, you know, to drive that beautiful car, and to eat in that expensive, in those expensive dishes.
Yeah, no, and I feel like, the continued feeling like feeling guilty that you have something because really secretly you don't feel like you deserve it because behavior that you know that you engage in that is not good, like so under like you're in your own deeper dark realms acting a certain way and then trying to make yourself feel better the wrong way. Like it just this is why it's
And
self-sabotage at
that's
the
the
end of the
thing
day.
with influencers who are trying to pretend, you know, to create a persona of wealth and ease and this and that, and actually their life is nothing like that. And I find that extremely sad, very sad. You know, how about the outer, you know, transparency is very important. And that's something I teach to my students in shamanism. And to be transparent, it means the inner and the outer match. They are the same. We are not hiding. We are acknowledging that, yes, I'm not perfect. Yes, you know, I have a shadow. Yes, you know, maybe I project, but I own it and I'm conscious of it and I become more and more aware. But I'm not trying to create a fake facade to give the illusion to other people of a reality that I'm not living. That's insanity. And in eventually it catches up with people and they collapse, and that's what we're seeing with all those movie stars or all those influencers who are trying to pretend to be something they're not. Well, eventually it shows and the cracks become bigger and bigger until the whole image collapses, and that's a terrible place to be. Terrible.
It is, and it's not fun like on the receiving end either because I've had situations where people I love very much, you know, um, like I talk too much. I have no filter. I say what I think, like you said. And and because that's something that like if I behave a certain way in a certain collective and then somebody I know is in that collective but doesn't want to be associated with me because I'm standing up for justice, I'm being direct, I'm saying what I think. If you're lame, you're lame. If you're ineffective, you're ineffective. And if you're claiming that you're here to help and then you continue to be inept and ineffective, that just makes me very frustrated. So, then it's like if you're going to talk to people like that, then I don't want to be associated with you because it'll come back at me. And it threatens my inner peace. And this whole thing coming back at me, it's like, wow, there's no solidarity. That's weird to me. And I'm being punished for being my authentic self by this person. And I thought it through and I thought, well, I
And
don't know
you
if
know
this is
why
arrogant, but
do
like
you
that's their problem. And if they're so threatened by being associated to me, then so be it. Like, okay, whatever.
Well,
If
then this is not your group. These are not your people, and there's nothing wrong with that. We cannot please everybody. And you're beautiful as you are, and I love that you're outspoken and continue being that. This is who you are, and you're not going to change that just to please some people who are offended by it or hurt by it
or threatened,
or
they're threatened, they're
or,
threatened, their
or
inner the language was, I can't have my inner peace threatened. And I thought your inner peace is only threatened, and I wrote it. Your inner peace is only threatened by the ideas that you have in your head. I have nothing to do with the ideas and the stories you tell about my behavior and how it affects you in your head. That has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with what you've concocted. And then they got really mad. Like I threw it
okay.
back at them, and then they got really mad and told me that I was alienating them. I said, well, that goes both ways, doesn't it? And then I haven't heard back from that person since I said that.
You know what? And it's fine. Let them be. This is a time, it's interesting because during COVID, the masks came up, but the masks came down at the same time.
Mm.
And I think now because the vibration is becoming faster and faster, and people cannot hold on to lies a lot anymore because it's just going too fast. We're in the spinning cycle of the washing machine right now. Um, and uh,
But
and
that's
those
fun.
people, and it is, I think it is, and people are revealing themselves left and right. And those people who don't appreciate who you are, the way you speak, well, that's fine, but that should not affect you, and that's their reality, and they are welcome to leave, and they're welcome to find somebody who doesn't threaten them and doesn't disturb their peace, and that's fine. That's fine, and we
Right.
need to let people go with a breath of kindness. I really think that's
I know.
important. And stick to those people who appreciate you, who welcome you, who are excited by who you are and how you deal with them and what you have to say. And those who don't, well, that's too bad. Goodbye, good luck. And that's all there is to it. But am I going to change myself because you are not happy with the way I am? No, I'm just not the right person for you. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And
And
it's fine.
this can happen in families too, you guys. Like it's not just friends. Sometimes like your kid or your husband or your parent will not be able to identify with your authentic self and find all kinds of intellectual reasons why they want to squirm. But I just it's the
And
advice.
and
Just let it
sometimes,
go.
it's a family reunion, it's your parent, and you cannot avoid being with them. Well, maybe that's a time where you just don't speak so much or don't say, like, I know my parents were, they did not like that I was an astrologer. They thought this was not a job. They thought it was ridiculous. They didn't believe in it. Well, I just didn't talk to them about it. But I still was doing what I was doing, but I just didn't share it with them because it was disturbing to them, and that's fine. That's still something I believed in, that's something I loved, that's something I was passionate about, and that was my life, and that was the life I chose, not the life they wanted for me. But hey, who says that their life they wanted for me would have been good for me? No, I didn't want the life they wanted for me. I wanted my life. So in the end, sometimes it's good to be silent also around certain people. And some people, like you've seen me laugh a lot, but some people have never seen me laugh, ever,
Are you
ever.
serious?
And oh, yes,
When I think of
absolutely.
you, all I think of is like we can't even get a word out because we're laughing. Like literally, like we've met at hotels when you were in town and you were staying at the hotel in downtown LA, and Jack and I came to visit you, and we sat around the little cocktail table, and the waitress kept walking by, like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? They haven't ordered any
I know.
alcohol. Like, are they on something? Like, yeah,
No, we're drunk. We're super drunks. We're drunk on water.
drunk on humor and vibes, man.
No,
Like,
but
I don't
to
know.
me, but I'll tell you, to me, and I figured that out, is that if the higher the frequency, the more I laugh. And around people who are very low frequency, they have never seen me laugh, ever, ever, truly.
I guess,
And it's
like you
like
said,
inner
we mirror each other.
So that's the thing is that we also sometimes, without changing ourselves, without being inauthentic, we will have to curb certain things. And maybe in some, to some people, there's certain things I won't talk about at all because I know it's going to rub them the wrong way. I know they're going to misunderstand. I know they're going to be upset with what I have to say. And that's fine. That's fine. I don't need to share everything I know with everybody or everything I think with everybody. And but do I want to hang out with those people? Probably not. Or not in the long run, at least.
Well, no,
Or
because
not.
when I feel like when you're with people who you know aren't able to handle a certain aspect of your authentic self, like there's only a limited time I want to put a bottle cap on myself. Like I can't,
Yeah,
I can be in a
absolutely.
straitjacket only so long, and then I can't. So it's limiting the time that you put yourself in a situation socially, because I don't want my authentic self to, I don't want to be that guy that is perceived as threatening somebody's, I love people. I love my friends and I love my family. And if my authentic self is that disturbing to them, I love them.
Mm,
Like, I don't want to be that guy. So I would rather just not be around, you know?
exactly.
Like, but
Exactly.
and I think that's
Exactly.
more, that's not to say, oh, look at me, I'm selfless, but like there are acts of being selfless that a lot of people can't seem to get themselves to that point.
But
That
that's
kind of
very
makes me
important.
sad. Like, where's the selflessness? Where's the putting aside your ideas just long enough to go give somebody a break? Like just for
Yeah.
5 minutes. Or if you recognize something, instead of putting up all these stories why you can't, and sorry, but and it's all really to protect some vulnerability and a feeling that you would rather not have because maybe the situation is sad, and maybe you're sad that somebody's getting older, maybe you're sad that somebody's dying, maybe you're sad that whatever, but like it doesn't mean you don't give the caregiver a break for a second because you can't put that aside long enough to be right. It's like, where's the selflessness? Like it just,
And
that makes me sad.
sometimes even, disturbing someone, I mean, we have to be also careful not to enable people either, because sometimes we need to be a little provocative and not maybe long term, not maybe in a big way, but maybe that's the one thing they needed to hear. And even if they react negatively in the moment, it doesn't mean that we didn't plant a seed that is going to bring something in the future. And I know some things that people told me like decades ago that at the moment I was very reactive. But then I thought about it and I thought, oh, they're right, and maybe I could change that. And maybe, how about I do things differently or I speak differently or I react differently. And it helped me even if in the moment I was not happy about what I heard. But so it's about what it's not, I think the problem is when people are saying things with ill intentions and purposely wanting to hurt someone. But if you're just saying things in a kind manner and with goodwill, now if the person doesn't react well, okay, that's maybe their problem. And maybe you still need to look at yourself. Could I have delivered my message differently? Could I have said it at a different time? It's always important to look back on ourselves, to be a sacred witness. That's another thing I teach in my school. I think it's very important to always examine ourselves and look, could I have said something different, nicer? Yes, of course. So will I do better next time? Yes, I will. And that's how we grow because Earth is a lesson. Being in the body is a lesson. We are here because we still have stuff to learn. We still have stuff to develop and to purify at a soul level. And this is what we need to remember. But we shouldn't enable people either, and we have to be very careful of that, not to play in their drama, because sometimes drama needs to be broken. And sometimes they are, like I met the other day, this guy, and he's like going on and on. His wife died, his wife died, his wife died, his life is miserable. And I asked him, well, when did your life die? 2 years ago. And he was still in the drama of this story. Uh, well, how about moving on at one point? How about seeing why did she die and what can I do now that I'm alone and she's not in my life? Well, what is the lesson for me here? What do I need to develop? Or am I going to be dependent on my wife, not being in my life forever? That's sad. That's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's all where the focus is. And again, shifting the focus just a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to stop grieving your wife because that's a way of showing love. Grief is a way of loving. But when you self-sabotage with it and then
And
stagnate
so,
yourself and use it as an excuse to stagnate yourself, it's a fine line, and then coming in and telling people, you got to be careful how you bring that up with people because, loss is it's some deep stuff, people all
and it's painful. It's
it is
extremely
painful.
painful. I agree, but then why did she leave and why are you still here and what do you have to do with being here? And how can you evolve and grow and continue without and knowing that you were married to this person gave you something, enriched you, and that person will always live in you, even if they're not physically there anymore. Everything you experience with this person is a part of you forever, whether they're there or not there. And now, how do you continue living with that legacy and enriching that legacy? And that's very important to remember that.
Yep.
We
Yep.
have been going every direction, Liane, as usual. Talking about everything under the sun.
Isn't that your job, talking about the sun and everything under it?
I guess, I guess you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
My purpose. um wow, what do you think is going to happen in the next 3 months as far as
Oh,
do you think I mean, and I'm just asking for your personal opinion, but I don't know if that's always, tainted is the wrong word, influenced by what with astrologically, but like what's the feeling you're getting? Are we headed towards some
we're really in 2025. It's a very unique year. All the planets are changing signs, not one, not two, all of them, which is unheard of. So to me, we are really ending a cycle and beginning a whole new cycle. So this is an incredible year of regeneration and seeing what worked of the past that we can keep, but also shifting to the new and creating something different and something we like better.
okay, that's helpful, but when people are so conditioned to looking outside for the peace and for the things that
Yes,
make them angry. Like I feel like people are still looking to feel alive. I
well,
want to feel alive, and they're trying to get there the wrong way because the way we talked about being your authentic self is really for me the only way to feel truly alive.
exactly.
It's with loving abandon, being yourself no matter what. That's the
Exactly.
freedom. That's the freedom
Yes.
that
And
everybody's
that
looking
goes
for.
back to the beginning of our conversation. is in the end, it's what do we focus on and what do we want for ourselves? Because if we're putting all our faith in the government, if we're putting all our faith in the stock market, if we're putting all our faith in a relationship, then we are robbing ourselves and we are making ourselves dependent on external circumstances we have no control over. And that is extremely dangerous. We need to focus on what do I have control over, and what I have control over is me. And how can I make my life better, happier, more alive, more exciting, more passionate? That's my choice. Now, that I can control, and I can make my world better. And if I make my world better, I'm making the world better. Period. So it's very simple. And to be fearful of what is coming, that's why in my YouTube channel I had different ways to go, and I decided, well, what is the most important? Is it to give predictions that are going to make people project themselves in the hypothetical future, because there's many possible futures, not just one, or how about using the planetary energies of each day to make the best of it in my life? And that's the path I chose. And I think the best use of astrology.
You know, in a world of, and now I'm talking about your world of astrologers and all this stuff that seems, etheric and philosophical and not tangible and all this stuff. You really have found a way to keep it grounded, and the vocabulary you choose to use in your weekly updates, I find very helpful because it's neutral. It's very neutral, and it's a neutral way of putting things. I don't find anything you say triggering. I find it more heads up this and heads up that, and have fun and see you next week, you know?
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what I was going for, that we can use as planetary energies that are shifting all the time. And some are better for being quiet, some are better for launching a new project, some are better for signing contracts, some are better for renovating, some are better for getting a new hairstyle. And if we start to go with the flow and become conscious of those different energies and use them for moving our life forward, then instead of resisting the flow, we're going to go with the flow, and beautiful things are going to happen. And we're not going to be constantly banging our head against walls that don't exist, that we are creating because we have a will and we want things to go this way and this only way. And instead of being flexible, going with the things that are presented to us. The day it's raining. I mean, that's what astrology does. Astrology will tell you it's raining outside. Now you decide, am I going to take an umbrella and a raincoat and go outside? Am I going to just experience the rain? Or am I going to stay home with a hot chocolate and, by the fire and a good book? But astrology, all it says, it's raining outside. That's all. Now, you figure out what you want to do with that. And I think that's the most interesting way of using astrology. Because if we start to predict, oh, yes, you're going to go outside with boots, a raincoat, and an umbrella, well, maybe that's not the future that the person is going to choose. Maybe they'd rather stay home in bed that day and listen to the rain. So it's limiting the scope of our experience if we start to make predictions in that sense.
Soon as you tell me rain, it makes me want to put a bathing suit on, take some shampoo and cream rinse, and just go outside and take a big shower in the
Well, I'm
street.
glad, because here it had been raining for a month nonstop, and finally today we had blue skies, sunshine, and warmth. And little flowers are coming out, so I was really, really happy about that.
Oh, I'm
Finally.
sure when Pachamama starts showing you little buds and colors, it's always a very refreshing and comforting thing. I'm just looking over there because I keep these little tiny,
Oh,
I'll buy
yeah.
little tiny flowers from Trader Joe's and these teeny tiny things, and then I pathologically don't want to put plastic back out into the world. So then I ended up using these yogurt things, gardening and like, I don't know. So
I
my
love
Faraday
that.
cage,
I love that. That's beautiful. Do you
I
still
do
have
have
your
it.
birds? You still have your birds?
Yeah, I have four with me here. One
Oh, I love
just walked into the room. Diva just came in.
wow. I
Yeah.
love your birds. I mean, you were like the master rescue, bird rescue.
Do you
Oh,
remember the
so cute.
crow when I rescued the crow? Were you around for that? That was a little that was interesting.
Yeah, that you were feeding every hour. I mean, it was
That's right. With
incredible.
the worms, I was sticking my finger down its throat because that's what mama birds do. They got to jam it in there. Like, oh my God.
I love
That
that.
was like
That's
3 weeks. Do you know that it's illegal? I was doing, see, I'm a bad woman. I break the law. I feed native, like crows are native. There's some weird law that you're not allowed to harbor or interfere with crows. Well, you know what? If I see something on a lawn going
well, you
for
saved
like
that crow.
6 hours and nobody's doing anything, I'm gonna try to save it.
Well, you saved that crow. I mean, that crow owes his life to you. That's
It still
beautiful.
follows my husband around the neighborhood, and my neighbor said I took over feeding it for you. So Buddy comes to see me.
Oh,
So
I
I'm
love.
really glad. And I think it's been over 5 years, but I know they have facial recognition. So I wonder
Oh,
if I went back in that neighborhood and started saying buddy, 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 whether a crow would fly down or not.
course, crows are incredible. They have high intelligent crows, and they are very, very highly developed birds. They are incredible crows. I was happy because yesterday there was a couple of crows and they were picking little twigs to create their nest. And I had
Mm,
never seen that. I was so excited about that.
I never knew what the sound, like I didn't associate the sound that I would hear all the, okay, bye. Was it something I said? Maybe she doesn't like we're talking about crows. She's like, you don't talk
Yeah,
about crows. Talk about parrots and I'll come back.
poor, we offended her.
It's okay.
Oh,
It's okay.
okay. Talk about
She'll get over
parrots.
it. I guess, like we said before, that's her problem. Something we said is
Yeah,
offensive. It's her trigger.
well, well,
She
it
has
was
to look
not
inside.
offensive. We were not focusing on her, and she was there, so that was not very nice. That's true. That was not nice.
We apologize, you
Yes.
little baby dragon woman thing.
Wow. Wow. Well, that was a lovely conversation, Liane. I
Yeah,
love
ending
always.
it on crows and insulted parrots. That's great. That's good.
Okay, no, that's not good. Okay,
No,
Parrot, come
no, no,
back.
no.
We are
Let's
going.
end it on this. Like, where can people come find you? You are, I know you have a reading coming up after this chat. So
Yeah.
clearly you
I,
are engageable. Where can people come find you, Michelle?
well, I have my website, michelkaren.com, and I have my YouTube channel, both in French and in English. So every week I do, and sometimes I do two videos in a week. It depends if I have time. The same in French and the same in English. And it's Michel, so it's YouTube, Michel Karen, my name, astrologer shaman. And
Okay.
you will see both. And
I'll
I
put all
talk
of
about,
that stuff
thank
in the
you.
description, of course, but it's nice to hear you say it.
Thank you. And yeah, I talk about what's, forecasts of the week, the energies we are dealing with in the week. I talk about cycles. When there's an eclipse, I talk about that. And I've done other videos also where I talk in general about astrology, about astral twins, about solar returns. What is that? And I try to do it in very plain language because I hate when I meet other astrologers and they're like, yeah, your Pluto is square your Mars, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, well, I know what it means, but what does it mean to you? So I try to make it in plain English or plain French, depending on the language, so that it's easy to understand and you can use that to plan whatever activities you may have that week.
And it's very effective and it is very helpful. And I will say, just like they say in the Bible, if it doesn't apply to you, she's not talking to you.
If it doesn't apply to you, just let it fly.
There you go.
Send it away with a breath of kindness. That's very
Direct,
important.
gentle. Direct, gentle.
Exactly.
All
Need more
right.
kindness in this world. But thank you, Liane. It's always a pleasure to talk to you,
Thank
and
you,
we should do it more
Michelle.
often. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you
I
so
love
much.
you,
Thank you for
and
riding the frequency with us, and we'll see you next time.
I love your weirdness. Don't change. I love it.
Don't encourage her. Oh my God.
You're great as you are. So, and thank you to all who listened and stayed with us all this time. So, thank you. I really appreciate it. Lots of love.
Well, that was fun. I miss my friend, but I'm really glad I got to speak with her and that you guys got to listen in. All right, you guys, keep staying focused on things that make you happy. Acknowledge what's around, but stay focused on what makes you happy. So we'll see you next time. Until then, keep riding the frequency and remember you're the awareness.